Okay, being 6:30,
Plenty.
we always start the FinCon meetings with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and before we start, everybody kindly put their cell phones off or on vibrate, one or the other. And the first one we have is the zoning board.
Yes. Hi, good evening. I think to start off with this, I would like to explain to you very briefly the makeup of the zoning board and the staffing for this, for our group, and really what our duties are with regard to complying with state statutes and local ordinances. First of all, we have 5 full-time members, all appointed by the selectmen, and up to 3 alternate members. All of them are non-paid volunteers. We have then also additionally a clerk who is part-time, and that'll be probably the majority of our discussions, because that's the main expense. With the exception of the clerk's salary, our total expenses are a little over $250 a year. So we're really talking about her salary, okay? To put things in proper perspectives. I mean, we reuse the envelopes that we pass around the decisions with to get the signatures. We try to, and have been doing that for years, to keep all of our expenses down to next to nothing. The individuals who put in the applications pay for the advertisements, because we need to advertise each one in the local. We need to additionally send out to all the individuals that are direct abutters to the properties in question. And so all of that information has to be sent out for each case that we review. Just to give you an idea what our responsibility is, I think the best way to describe us as a quasi-judicial board that handles appeals for the town to decisions made primarily by the building department in their interpretation, or asking variances to extend or change slightly due to hardship or other things that are in the statute, to allow people to come up before us and to go outside the bounds, is what is described in either the state and annual building acts, which are Section 40 and the infamous Section 40B, which is low-income housing. Okay, and then additionally for dealing with the local zoning regs, which are continuously changing. We, by state mandate, are required to act in a very timely manner on any applications that come before us. So we do not have the luxury to unilaterally say, we're going to postpone this a month, or we're going to do this. We have to make a decision within 30 days of our cutoff date. That decision has to be then timed, date stamped, and then put in and officially filed. It is an appealable, then anyone who doesn't like the decision we make, it's appealable to the Superior Court. And we do receive summons. That's one of the lucky things as a volunteer. We get sued 1 or more times a year, you know, for our service.
Does that cost them, I'm sorry, does that cost the town anything?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does, yes.
Do you win?
We win most of them, yes.
Does it still cost the town?
But to be fair, we try, that is a consideration, because you don't want to win every one of them, okay? You know, because you never compromise on an issue and have to pay all the legal fees.
I see, okay.
You know, as a town. So you really are looking at a two-edged sword, which At least, I mean, we don't, I'm not saying that's a high consideration, but we're always looking for a compromise decision because there would be a much greater, litigation is very expensive. Okay, that if you get involved with it. So we hold monthly meetings. We make a decision or vote. If we decide that we don't have enough information, we can tell the party that we can't. Do you want us to act on that? Generally, they say, okay, we'll supply more information, or we go find the more information. Some things are extended to the next month or a continuation. But generally, a decision is made to either approve or deny it. And then that is, then once we do that, so where this, let me just tell you where this all comes in. What our clerk does is we have nobody that interfaces from our board with the town. The clerk is 100% of our interface with the town. I mean, we obviously, at the meetings we interface, but I mean, if you can't come up and you want to file a petition, you have any questions on the application or anything else like that, it's the clerk. She works 14 hours a week. Her salary currently is, like, our total salary as we initially put it in was $12,900. Her salary, part of that is $12,630, and she works 14 hours a week. In that, what she does for us during that time is she answers questions for people who want to file applications. She will try to counsel them to the extent we don't offer legal advice, but I mean in filling out the application. She then, once she gets the applications for the month's meeting, she has to go to assessors to get the appropriate individuals that we have to send notices to that are the abutters. She has to make sure that all the plans are there that we need so that we can make a decision. It may be surveying documents, it may be building drawings, it may be other items concerning where the property sits relative to other properties. We get an overview on the town map, like a Google map. All of that comes to us in a package for each case. She assembles all those. She delivers those to us at our home for the members that are going to do that. She then, as our recording secretary at our meetings, which we meet at least once a month, on Tuesday nights, they can go anywhere from 2 hours to 4. And we try to take, we need to take all, or we have to provide, we have to come and have another meeting, because we are, if we don't hear that during the proposed time, it is automatically allowed if someone files.
Oh, I see.
So we are time-driven. Okay, most boards can say, oh, when we get to it. That's not an option for us. Chapter 40 requires us to do that. You asked for, she said there were needed to have certain indications on budgetary conditions. As I said, we really are looking at a situation of cutting her hours from the 14 hours she currently works a week. If you're talking a 4% type increase, she would then be working like 31 less hours a year. That is something, you know, that could be lived with. Okay, I'm not saying I recommended it, but would that cause us to not be able to run the operation? No, I think we could get by. You get much more than that, I think it would have a large effect. The biggest effect it's going to have is to the people that use the service, in that they would have no one to talk to. Okay, and because she is the only individual. I have the numbers to go down for if the person were to be cut at about a 17% level, the number of hours would go down to from 14 a week, they would go down to about 11 a week, 11 and a half. And if we got down at a 38% level, it would get down closer to 8 or a little under a week. I think at 8, we would not in any way be able to comply with state regulations. 11 would really push it. And if we ever get a 40B, forget it. And you know, we just went through one. We were meeting 3 times a month. Our meeting hours would almost take up all of our time, okay, in that situations. Hopefully, we're not always under a 40B, and we're in a little, I'm not gonna base it on what we did when we had a 40B, because that causes all of us many more hours. But on a standard running rate, I think that's basically what we are. Do you have any other questions for us?
Any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Is it mostly that she gets phone calls, or is it mostly emails? Or is
She,
it-
to be honest with you, I think mostly she gets in a thing, but they come in here to pick up the actual form.
Oh,
and
they do, come
and-
right into
Yeah,
the
because we
office.
have a
Okay.
form,
All right.
and they come into the office,
Oh, all
and,
right.
but they many times will call, because obviously at 14 hours a week,
Yeah.
we aren't manned
Right.
all the time. She sort of comes in on semi-stated hours, you know, but there's some flexibility there, but she's in like 4 days a week from 9 to 10-ish to whenever it comes in for the week.
So it's mostly come in or call, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mostly
so
come
she
in,
needs to
you know,
be
they
there,
come up
yeah.
and they don't know whether they're in the R20 district or the R40, they don't know.
Okay.
You know, they need to know square footage, they need to know a number of different things. They don't know whether, are they looking for a variance maybe or a special permit? And it's not always, she may not have the exact answer, but she is able to somewhat help them. Obviously, it's easier if people get an attorney to represent them to come before us, but the vast majority do not,
Okay. All right, thank you.
okay?
Outside of the 40B, which you said seems to take a majority of time when that comes in, do you happen to have a sense of when these applications are submitted, how long it takes, like man-hour-wise, to produce each one? And I guess the second part of that question then becomes, how many are you processing in a given week, month, on average?
Yes, that's a very relevant. And let me just say, she prepares the initial package for us after she does that. She then attends the meeting, she acts as a
Right.
clerk. She then needs to write up the minutes for it.
Yep.
She needs to get those out back to all members to review, sign off on, and then she needs to file a monthly statement of the minutes of our meeting. If you would take that for a standard, I would say a good number is something in the order of 4 or 5 a month that she in fact will see on those.
Okay.
Out of that 4 or 5, we'll have a continuation of, let's say, one of them. So
Yeah.
a standard meeting, we're looking at actions being done on 5 different applications, you know, either a past one we still have to hear on or the other
Sure.
ones. And I would say she uses up pretty much, I would say, on a standard, if we have a slow month, she's got some free time.
Okay.
But standard-wise, she's using up mostly all the time.
Okay.
I mean, could you cut it 4% and still do it? The answer is yeah. I mean, that means that she, you know, I hope we would have the flexibility to set her schedule up a little bit like that so that we would be able to do something like that, you know, and that sort of. But you get much more than that. We have really difficulty complying. She would then not be there. The only time she would be doing basically is doing the things that have to be done. Getting the packages, they have to be there for all the members, to sit at the members' meetings and to prepare the minutes.
Right.
Yeah. Just one more question. So if we did do the 33% and cut her back, how many hours a week would she be available to the actual general public?
I don't think she could do the job.
Yeah.
Should be available 8 hours a week.
8 hours a week,
Yeah.
and that's
That would not be,
cumbersome for most
I don't,
people.
I do not believe she would be able to assemble the packages.
Right.
Deliver them, get them back, prepare the decisions, get them back for us for signatures. It isn't gonna happen. It certainly isn't gonna happen certain months.
Okay,
We can have 8, 9 applications we have to deal with.
right.
And then if we have that many, we may need 2 meetings. So she could be tied up 8 hours just in meetings. It's something that's come down over the last 4 or 5 years to being the 14 hours it's now. You know, the 14 hours we seem to be able to live with, but too much more, I don't see it happening with us being able to carry out our duties. It's, I think, the only, or one of the only people that have no paid employees other than a part-time clerk. You know that.
Yeah. Oh, all of us.
Yeah, I think yours is the one other. Do you have any finance person, though?
Yes, we
That's-
do have a secretary.
Yeah, see, I mean, we have no one other than her. I mean, she is our total representative to the public for the town of zoning.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Anything else?
Margaret
Hey, thank you.
revised the 33%.
Okay, planning board isn't gonna be here tonight.
Oh, okay.
Conservation Commission?
I know she's here.
I do have a handout. I apologize. I wasn't able to get it to you sooner.
That's all right.
I'm constrained through a little. This just summarizes what we'll go over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Shannon Doyle, the conservation agent. I also have David Scanlon here, the conservation chairman. In response to your request, we provided a breakdown of our department as well as the 3 different budget scenarios. I also have the wetlands bylaw to talk about tonight. Did you want me to start with the budget,
Yes.
Chairman? Yeah, okay. Our department is basically made up of myself. I'm the full-time employee, the conservation agent. And we also have a part-time clerk. She works 12 hours per week, Monday through Thursday. During the summer, we have our seasonal beach program, and we staff lifeguards and gate attendants at the Barbara Road Beach. Generally, we have on staff 2 lifeguards and 3 gate attendants, and they work 7 days per week, 8 hours per day at the Barbara Road Beach. As a department, we also have legally mandated requirements. We, basically, our function as a conservation commission is to enforce and administer the Wetlands Protection Act, which is a state act. Under the State Wetlands Protection Act, we're legally required to meet certain timelines and deadlines. As the zoning board was discussing, we have legal advertising requirements. We have to hold public hearings within a certain time frame, 21 days of applications being filed. We have to issue permits and determinations within a certain time frame of the commission making a decision. We also have to issue other business decisions within certain time frames. Generally, those are 21 days after any decision. If we don't meet these statutory timeframes, the applicant can appeal to DEP for basically a constructive approval, and at that point, we would lose authority over the project. So those timelines become very important when you have large projects before a board. With the budget cuts, I have a written description. I also have a Excel spreadsheet that just details each account and where the cuts will be made, with the 4%, the 17%, and the 38%. For the 4%, we would be able to maintain our current staffing levels, including the beach program, although we would have to cut, obviously, our operating budget. Under the 4.09, we would be reducing our budget by about $4,259. With that cut, we would be eliminating a couple of our maintenance accounts that we have to maintain our properties as well as the dams that we own. Also, we could eliminate our accounts for our vehicle maintenance as well as training. But as I said, we could maintain our current staffing levels with that cut. It would affect just mostly our maintenance accounts. With the next, the larger 17.35%, that would reduce our budget by $18,085. Obviously, more substantial cut to the operating budget. Also, we would have to eliminate the beach program at that time. As I said earlier, we currently staff 1 lifeguard and 1 gate attendant at the beach. And they're not only responsible, obviously lifeguards are looking out for safety, but the gate attendants, they do many functions at the beach. They collect money, which goes to the general fund. They also clean the beach area, dispose of trash on a daily basis, and enforce our beach as well as our boating regulations. So it's, really important to have them there. It's not just about collecting fees. They're keeping an eye on everything, and as well as the boaters, making sure they comply with our regulations. So losing that would obviously affect the operation of the beach. We feel it would have a really detrimental impact because people would still be going there, residents as well as non-residents. We have to maintain the beaches open. We have to keep the gates open because the state requires us to, because the ponds are stocked. So we couldn't close them for any reason. So people would still be going there, using the beach, bringing their trash, and we would just obviously have nobody to keep an eye on things. So that we feel would really have a detrimental impact on the beach. We would also reduce our operating budget, including the maintenance accounts, the vehicle accounts, wireless phones. We would have to eliminate all beach supply accounts, as well as reduce our budget for postage, advertising, and office supplies. A lot of these accounts are needed because of our duties under the Act. We issue a lot of permits, we do a lot of mailings, we do a lot of advertisings, which we're legally required to do. So obviously reducing these isn't ideal. We could, survive, but it would be tough. The last option is the 38.26%. Obviously, large number for our department. Our total budget is $104,000. This would cut our budget by almost $40,000. It would require me to lay off the conservation clerk, as well as obviously the beach program, and make more cuts to the operating budget. The clerk, she only works 12 hours a week right now, and she's really vital to the department. She handles all administrative duties. In the short time she works, she does a lot. She prepares meeting notices, agendas, publishes legal advertisements, attends the public meetings, takes meeting minutes, oversees all the revolving accounts, issues the mailings, all within the legally mandated timeframes. So losing her would obviously be, pretty significant. It would put all the administrative tasks on myself, which obviously takes away from my normal duties as conservation agent, and it would basically make it impossible to function, I think, as a department in accordance with our statutory requirements. We've also included as a second option simply because I'm going to be on leave for 3 months, and in the worst case, if this did happen, we had to cut the clerk, there would be basically nobody there for 3 months from July to October. So we did present a Plan B, which maintained the clerk's hours at a reduced 8 hours, and also cut my hours to 32. And the reason for that is, like I said, to have someone in the office while I'm on leave. Otherwise, basically, the conservation department is shut down for 3 months. So that's why we included that option B. So I can answer any questions about the budget, and like I said, I also have the wetlands bylaw to discuss with you as well.
Just curious, because I don't know, what are the fees to use the pond?
It's $5 for in-state and $10 for out-of-state parking.
And then the boat ramp fees are a little bit different. are
Yes,
they not?
that's $5. You can also buy a pass if you're a resident for $50 for the season, but most people pay as they go.
Is that just falls, or is Whiting and Falls?
That's just falls.
Just Falls.
We stopped staffing Whitings,
oh,
a
that's
few years
stopped,
ago because
okay.
of the budget.
Yeah.
It's a much smaller beach, and it's residents only. Most people don't even know about it, to be honest with you, so
Yeah,
we have
that's
much
good,
less
yeah.
traffic there, which is helpful.
Okay.
So what is your typical, I guess, what do you generate from those fees every year?
From the beaches.
Yeah.
I think last year it was $5,000 or $6,000
Yeah.
in parking fees. Yeah, it all depends on the summer, obviously, but it's in the thousands.
Any thought to increasing them? For out of state at least?
Yes, I've been pushing for that, but we
Okay.
haven't gotten there yet. We did increase it. 10 was actually an increase a couple years ago. But out of state, we have talked about going even higher.
Sharon, one of the things that you had under the 17.35 reduction, You said you're required to keep the access gates open from dawn till dusk.
Yes.
You don't have a lifeguard on all that time, do you?
No, the gates are open because of the state, the DCR, and our agreement with them for the parking area and fishing. It's more of a recreation issue. But no, our lifeguards don't start until, 10 a.m.
Okay. And what does dam maintenance include?
Who's maintenance?
Yeah, what functions are included in dam maintenance? And I ask that just out of ignorance.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. In the dam?
What is included in your dam maintenance? I just don't know.
Oh, that's in the event it's not something that we really have set things that we need to maintain. It's in the event that something comes up. Like a couple years ago, we had to spend $1,500 on removal of trees and invasive species that were growing over at the Falls Dam. DPW couldn't get to it. Unfortunately, with staffing and the budget issues, DPW just hasn't been able to keep up with as much as would be required at the dam, so sometimes we have to contract out. Another example would be, just this past week, we had to have someone come out and look at a gate at the dam that was all rusted, and we wanted to make sure it was safe to open it, so we have to have an engineer come out and evaluate that. Little things like that might come up.
So it's response to problems, it is not a scheduled functional
It's not a
thing that you
scheduled-
do.
right.
Like change your oil every 3,000 miles. Right?
We get inspections every 2 years, which is required under state law. That's separate, but we do ask for that every other year. It's not included, we're not required to do an inspection this coming fiscal year, so that's why we just included the maintenance.
What is the maintenance of ponds? Is that like weed control, that sort of thing, the $8,200?
Yes, and the reason we kept that one, thank you for bringing that up. That's not something we normally have either, but the town spent a lot of money conducting the aquatic management program last year, and the recommendations of follow-up is something that you really need to implement, or else you're going to end up spending a lot more money later on. So that's why we kept that account intact. Obviously, if in the worst-case scenario, we would eliminate it. But we're hoping to be able to do the follow-up treatments to save money later down the road.
Great,
But
thanks.
yes, it is aquatic management.
Any other questions on that? The budget? Okay, Mary, on your,
I don't have a lot of time, so I'll just go over the bylaw. I'll try to hit as many important points as I can and then answer any questions you might have. Obviously, we're restricted on time tonight, so I can't go over the entire thing in detail, but I believe you guys got a copy of it, the bylaw
We did,
and the
yes.
question and answer. The sheet that I provided explains in detail the differences between the State and Wetlands Protection Act and the proposed local bylaw. We had, just for your reference, we had a public forum in March, and we also had another public meeting in April. So we've had 2 meetings with the public on this, and as a result of that, we got some really good feedback, and we did make several changes. And that basically is what you have before you tonight that was submitted for a special town meeting. The bylaw itself is based on a model provided by the Mass Association of Conservation Commissioners, and it's been adopted by, it's been used by all the municipalities that have, most of the municipalities that have adopted a bylaw, they've used this model. Obviously, we tailored it to North Attleboro, we've edited it, we tried to make it, fit to this community as much as possible, but this model has been approved by the Attorney General, and it's also been tested and held up in court, so we feel it's a strong basis. Over half of the municipalities in Massachusetts have adopted a local bylaw, including most of the towns surrounding us. So we feel, this is really time for North Attleboro. This is the 3rd time, actually, the commission has brought a bylaw forward. The prior 2 were also based on the model. It's changed over the years. In some ways, not significantly, but it has changed to kind of tighten it up and make it more legally defensible. So that's what it's based on. And like I said, this is the 3rd time, and we really feel like now is an important time for North Attleboro to pass this bylaw to try to promote environmentally sustainable development in North Attleboro. It's consistent with our master plan, which one of the goals in the master plan is to adopt a wetlands bylaw and promote environmentally sustainable development. So that's what we're hoping to do. It would apply to new projects that are filed after the effective date of the bylaw. And it would apply to any activities, basically, that will alter a wetland resource area. It does expand the commission's jurisdiction to include resource areas that weren't previously included. Most of the meat of the bylaw comes right from the state act, but in order to be approved by the Attorney General, it has to be stricter, and that's the point of it, obviously. So there are differences, including the expanded jurisdiction, which basically before only wetlands that border surface waters were protected. We included wetlands that don't border surface waters. So we provided additional protections for wetlands that aren't bordering a surface water. We also provide additional protections for vernal pools and smaller ponds. We included, another difference between the state act is we included fees. They're very modest. We know the town is struggling financially, but you know, this is consistent with every other department in town hall to have some local fee. We don't have any currently. There's a state fee, but not a local fee. So it won't be a lot, but it will generate some revenue for the town. We also expanded abutter notification. Based on public comment, we scaled that back. We were gonna ask for 300 feet, which is consistent with zoning and planning, but based on public comment, we brought that back to 100 feet, which is required anyway under the state law. We just asked.
What is that in regards to?
Abutter notification requirements.
A butter notification.
So when someone files a permit, they're required to notify abutters within so many feet. For conservation, it's 100. For other boards, it's 300. But we're keeping it at 100. Also, it allows us to adopt regulations. Currently, the commission doesn't have local regulations. The bylaw allows us to do that at a later date, hopefully once it's approved. Basically, those regulations will define terms in the bylaw, establish procedures, but it has to be consistent with the terms that are approved in the bylaw itself. It also allows us to issue citations and establishes an appeal procedure, which would go to Superior Court. And the other major difference that we feel is really important is we now included a presumption that the buffer zone itself, which is 100 feet from a wetland, is an important resource area that needs to be protected. And because of that, we've established in the bylaw a 25-foot no disturb zone. Currently, the state doesn't require any setback. You can work right up to the wetland boundary, and I think we've seen over time that can cause you know, disastrous effects, and the 25-foot would provide greater protections to the wetland. We currently have a policy that already requires this, but it's only a policy, and as we've learned, you know, recently, it doesn't hold up in court. So we want it to be included in the bylaw, so we have a legal framework to require that setback.
Would that be grandfathered? Because if people are already there, we can't ask them to leave. Do you
No,
know
it
what I'm
wouldn't
trying
apply to
say?
any, no, it would
Okay.
only apply to new projects that have an undisturbed
Okay.
area, yeah. And it specifically says in the bylaw, it does not apply to lawn areas
All
or
right.
any legally established use in that zone. And just one more important thing to point out, after the public forum, one of the comments was people were concerned about minor activities, so we went and included all the exemptions from the state act, and we included it in the bylaw. So any minor activity that's a certain number of feet away from a wetland would be exempt from any of the requirements under the bylaw. Sheds, decks, pools, things like that. So I know that was quick, but if anyone has any more questions about that.
May I? The wetlands bylaw,
Yep.
you don't, I know you said earlier that you have tried to do this 2 or 3 times previously.
Yes.
I'm going to jump to the conclusion, and tell me if I'm jumping right, wrong, or indifferent, that we do not have currently a bylaw in place for conservation. Is that?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, the last attempt was 2008. Obviously, it was unsuccessful. And the commission feels that, you know, now is a good time to try again. You know, obviously, the town is struggling financially, but we haven't seen a decrease in development. Just in the past, you know, month, we've approved a 40B apartment complex at Jewel Cross. We've approved the large-scale mixed-use development at 21 East Street. We have car dealerships before us. There's a 50-lot subdivision off High Street, so development is only increasing. Even though, you know, the town may be struggling, we're seeing development continue and increase, and we want to be prepared to steer this development in the right direction as it expands into undeveloped areas of North Attleboro. So that's what we're looking to do.
Do you think there's any cost associated with the?
There's no change in cost from what we currently do under the State Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay, thanks.
I personally would like to compliment you on your spreadsheet breakdown in terms of the various budget. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but do appreciate it. You did a good job, it looks like.
Thank you. Hope it's helpful.
I really did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Chris, are you ready?
Next. Oh, Chris.
Paul, do you want copies for the members that aren't here, or?
Yes, but if I could.
His allergies, maple trees are particularly bad this month.
No, it's a cold.
Oh, is it a cold? Just don't sit beside me. Thank you.
What's that?
Are you taking public comment?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, now, I'd like to comment on the wetlands bylaw.
Certainly.
All right.
Yeah, if you could just come up to the mic and introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Who's taking our minutes?
What's that?
Who's taking our minutes?
In case anybody doesn't realize it, we can have citizens' comments on anything.
Hi, my name's Steve Bankert. I live in town, obviously. And twice before I've seen this bylaw come and be defeated. And rightly, it should have been both times. And this time again, I think it should. The agent was correct. The language, some of it, comes from the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions. But that association is not state-sponsored. That's a private group. Much like the National Audubon Society or the Boy Scouts are private groups. It's not sanctioned by the state. The town pays a membership into it, but they pay a membership in. They're not, it's not a group that's put together by the state or by the Department of Environmental Protection. There are several things in the bylaw which I had took particular issue with simply because they go well beyond what the state requires or makes sense. One of the most glaring was under exemptions and exceptions, which is their section 3C. The very last sentence, other than stated in this bylaw, the exemptions provided by the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations shall not apply under this bylaw. The state gives
I'm sorry.
you
You said section 3?
section 3, letter C.
Right.
The very last sentence, it says, other than stated, the exemptions provided in the Wetlands Protection Act and the regulations 310 CMR shall not apply under this bylaw. Unless, was that changed?
It doesn't say that on our copy.
Okay, they changed that.
It's on the top of page 3,
Oh, it's at the top? Okay, so they moved
under
it.
D.
Yeah, my point there is very simple. Here are 4 pages of exemptions that the state provides the residents of Massachusetts. There are exemptions for everything from mowing your lawn, trimming trees, Department of Public Works putting in a sign, normal maintenance and routine maintenance, clearing storm drains, etc., all the way up to vista pruning, trimming shrubs and things like that within the buffer zone. the state's already made these regulations and these exemptions. This bylaw takes away 4 pages of rights that people in town have without anybody knowing it, which I think is completely wrong. I think the town people should have these rights. And I've made a copy and I want to leave it with you. I know you're not going to deliberate on it tonight, but I was a member of your board years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago. I remember how it went. And
But section D here on the page before says minor activities are exempt.
yes,
Pedestrian walks, fencing, vista pruning, they're exempt.
do you have that on
So-
yours? Because this,
Here,
okay, this is the
They're
copy
exempt.
this is the copy that the Conservation Commission gave to me. Apparently yours is different. That's
apparently
interesting.
it is. Because
Okay.
it's, what you're saying is, they're saying is exempt, and you're saying it is not.
Yeah, well, what I'm reading on here is that it's not. But again, I don't know what they've included in your copy, but if it's 4 pages long, then I guess we're okay. If it's not 4 pages long, I'd like you to have the opportunity to review it
10
and see.
pages.
No, just the exemptions is 4 pages.
No.
Under applications and fees, section 4, and again, maybe your copy is different, I will defer if it is. Plans that are acceptable to Department of Environmental Protection may not be acceptable to the Town Conservation Commission. Section 4, first paragraph.
Section 4, applications.
Applications and fees, section 4,
Application.
paragraph A, correct?
Yes.
Sir, I think you might have had one that is not, what we have.
It's very possible that I didn't get the
May have
same
had a-
copy that she
You
gave
may
you.
have had one that was, not, an early revision, that's the word. Would you like this one?
Just for the copy, yeah, I can, sure I can go through it.
I can get another, that's fine.
Well, I'm gonna leave it, I will give it back to you. I can compare this very quickly, though. Let's see. Oh, no, they made it section B. So it says, commission in an appropriate case may accept the plans and applications under this bylaw as filed under the Wetlands Protection Act, but the commission is not obligated to do so. And my issue with that is, if the plans are acceptable to the state, why would somebody be required to create new plans? Remember, creating plans is exceptionally expensive, so you're actually creating an expense for the applicant. And there's no criteria as to what would be acceptable and what wouldn't be. So the commission could decide that they didn't like the fact that it was blue paper or a blue pen. And there's nothing in the bylaw that says they can't say that. I know that's way out of line, but it's also not articulated. And that makes it very difficult. Let's see. All right, section C, and that may have changed too. Okay, nope, there it is. It's now section D. Under applications and fees, section D is fees that can be charged for an outside consultant. And
Okay.
there's no limit to the outside consultant fee. I took the liberty of printing out how other towns, and in this case it was Easton, the town of Easton, they have criteria, formulas, and caps on their fees for outside consultants. Under this bylaw that they're proposing, let's say you want to put a swimming pool in your backyard, and it's within the 100-foot buffer zone. Well, first of all, it's in a 100-foot buffer zone, they can tell you absolutely not, no, even if you're 90 feet away. Second, they can say, okay, we're going to have an engineer come and review it. We've got an estimate, and the engineer review will be $30,000. There's nothing in this bylaw that says they can't tell you it's $30,000, and if you say no, then your project just died. Let's say you want to put in a subdivision. You've got 10 acres of land, and you want to put in the legal limit of houses, let's say 8 houses fit. You come in with your plans, and they say, Review will be $150,000. Please deposit that money in the town treasurer's office. If we use it and we're not done, we may require another $150,000 from you. There's nothing in the bylaw to stop them from doing that. They could charge you for the rest of your life on that. If you don't pay, they'll add it to the tax bill and they'll take it from you on the land. So there's nothing in here. Regardless of the makeup of the commission today, this law lasts beyond them. Maybe the group that's there today would not do that. But they could all be appointed and a new group could be there 2 years from now. The bylaw will still be in effect and the new group could be so anti-building that nothing gets built in town, if that was what happened. So the bylaw has to be very precise on what can and can't be done, and the loopholes have to be minimized or eliminated for something like that. Again, I made a copy of that, and I want to leave it with the committee. It was interesting. The copy was emailed to me, and when I printed it, the parts that came from the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions came out in black, and the section on fees for consultants printed out in red. So to me, that was it was a different font and a different page sizing and a different color. So somebody created this and added it. It doesn't match anything that I've found anywhere else in any other town. So somebody made up their own. And again, it is more strict than the state, but it's way more than what we need, and it's very constricting and very strangling to how the town is going to work. Presumptions, section 6. Let's see.
Presumptions, yes.
Okay, A. Let's see, where did they put that? They must have moved that. And I heard the agent talk about it. The commission wants the ability to make rules and regulations. There it is. Oh, section 8. They moved it to section 8. Any rules and regulations, I believe, should be made by representative town meeting. The moment you start to allow a commission or somebody else to make regulations, you give away the authority of town government. The whole idea of town government is that the people govern themselves, and then this board is asking to circumvent that right, that ability, and just say, you give us the right, we will never have to come back to you again. We'll just make our own rules and regulations, and then we'll enforce them the next day, and nobody will have a say in it, which is totally wrong.
But they're saying after public notice and public hearing.
Well,
After public notice and public hearing.
okay, so
So if any of the public is interested, they will go and have their say.
Doesn't require them
But
to listen.
but they don't vote. The public doesn't vote at that meeting, just the commission. So
Okay,
the
I
commission, opens the meeting and says, hi, here I am, and we proposed a ruling that says you can't build within 100 feet of a pond, you can't build within 1,000 feet of a river, and that's what we propose. And everybody in the audience says, no, we don't want that. And the chairman says, I'll take a vote. The 4 commissioners on either side say we approve, and it passes. That I think is wrong. And I don't think we should give away power. I just don't, the way it's put in. Let's see, no restrictions. I don't know where they put that. Well, in general, no restrictions on costs anywhere in this document. If they decide they want you to have a habitat study, you want to put your pool in again, and they say you have to get a habitat study, that's about $5,000. To make sure that where you're going to put your pool, there's no wildlife living. If they say you have to have it, you have to have it. If you refuse, you don't get your pool. If you decide you're going to go ahead with it, your $5,000 pool costs you $5,000 for a habitat engineer to come out and certify that there is no wildlife living within 100 feet of where you're putting your pool, because now your pool might affect someplace else. And I'm picking on you, I'm sorry. But you understand what I'm saying.
I do
You and your
totally.
pool.
You know? Oh, by the
I wish I
way,
had a pool.
yeah, and you also paid $10,000 for the engineer to come out and determine that the pool could go in there without hurting any wetlands. So this is a very expensive pool. Yeah,
Hope you have a good job, John.
Yeah, yeah.
let's see.
Why doesn't have a pool?
And I don't know if this is still in there. They put in one clause and they called it F at the end. Let's see if it survived or not. Survivability, appeals. Oh, appeals.
Okay.
They list,
Number?
section 13.
13, last page.
Yeah. They list that appeals shall go to Superior Court, General Law, Chapter 249, subsection 4. That is a review of whether or not the board followed the law. So in return, every decision they make has to be founded in a law in order for that review to take place. And there's nothing in here which, when the state made their laws, they will say, when we come and look at a job, when the Department of Environmental Protection looks at your job, you have to meet the standards outlined in section XYZ. You have to meet the standards in section ABC. And they'll tell you where all your standards are. And that's the law. So if you get denied and you go to the Superior Court, what the Superior Court does then is they look at that and they say, okay, the standard is if you're more than 50 feet from the water, you can build your pool. And then the judge just looks and says, okay, how far is the pool? You say 51 feet. He says, then the law says you can build your pool, and he overturns the commission. If your pool's 49, then he upholds the commission, and it's that simple. But without that criteria, which this bylaw hasn't got, it's arbitrary. They'll make it up. Yeah, you're 99 feet away, but we've decided you can't. And there's no review because there's no law for them to follow. So it's incumbent that the law be written into the bylaw for people, for them to follow, for whichever commission. And again, I'm not picking on this particular one. I'm looking forward into the future. This commission is different from the commission 5 years ago, and it'll be far different from the one 5 years from now. So it has to be a forever document. It can't just be for this group, because then we got to change every time we get a new group of commissioners, or even one new commissioner. They added vernal pools, and vernal pool with a 100-foot buffer zone. A vernal pool is 200 cubic feet of water.
Section?
Definitions under V, section 9.
What is a vernal pool?
A vernal pool is 200 cubic feet of water, 10 by 10 by 2 feet deep, which is smaller than the area you're sitting in. With a 100-foot buffer zone around it, the math works out to 31,000 square feet of protected area. The state gives you a lot of ways to build within that area. This bylaw does not. This bylaw, basically, that 3/4 of an acre becomes unbuildable. So, pick on you now,
Good.
again. Your subdivision, unfortunately, that you were gonna put 9 houses in, has a vernal pool in it. Well, before, you lost maybe a lot. And you could still build on that lot, but you had to leave the vernal pool. You couldn't put grass there. Under this bylaw, you just lost 3/4 of an acre of buildable land, because they can say that 100-foot buffer zone is totally undisturbed. I'm not saying they will, but the bylaw gives them the right to. And the next commission may take that and run with it and say, no building in that 100-foot. Because, you know, take pi, what is it? Pi squared times, diameter squared times pi is the area of a circle. So you've got this little small area, and then you go 100 feet, and you do the math, it comes to about 31,000 square feet.
I think it's radius, but.
Radius. Yeah, I'm sorry, not diameter. See? I'm a math teacher. No? Okay, sorry.
So.
Well, you're on
so
the
a vernal
finance committee.
pool is a little fish pond in your backyard, is that what I'm reading?
Yes.
Okay.
Naturally occurring, and it only has to have water 2 months of the year in the spring or the summer. It doesn't have to be wet all year long. Just 2 months out of the year, it needs to have water in it. And 3/4 of an acre disappears from being built. For the finance committee, one of the worst things that happens when you do that is you can actually lose the value of that land for taxes. If the commission determines that that 3/4 of an acre is unbuildable, it's no longer taxed as a buildable lot. The value of it may go down to 0 or $5. And the tax rate on $5 is far less than the tax rate on a $100,000 buildable lot. So,
You're being a math teacher.
yes. Yes, and I like math, but I'm not that good at it. So I'm going to give you back these. I will
I
give
have
you
another
these-
copy, sir, you may keep that, I do have another copy.
Oh, all right, I'm going to keep that one then,
Yeah,
but I
keep
do
that.
want to give you these two.
So, as you're passing this out, I forgot to ask the last time, and did this go before bylaw study?
Not yet, next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
Oh, all right, okay.
Right.
Okay.
This is from the state. These are the exemptions that the state offers to the residents. And this is the town of Easton Wetlands Protection,
Okay.
and it shows all the different prices for what you're going to do, all right?
Okay.
It's well laid out, consultant fee, what the consultant fee is gonna be. Instead of $150,000 for this poor guy building them, they cap it at $2,500, which is reasonable. There's one other thing I'd like to address, and again, I made copies. Oh, no, there's one other thing I want you to get. This is a decision by the Attorney General. It's 14
Excuse me one
years old.
second, excuse me one second. If we could just keep it down, all the little conversations, it's getting a little bit difficult to hear two things going at once. I can't multitask with ears. Thank you.
This was in particular a request by the town of Ludlow to expand the no disturbance zone. And you heard the agent talk about making that 25-foot no disturbance zone. Well, it was rejected by the Attorney General. Now granted, it was a few years ago, but the law, it was void for vagueness is what she called it. And there was no criteria to establish what that 25-foot zone reasoning was, just we want it. So they asked for it here, and I know the state, the Mass Conservation Commission Association puts it into all of their verbiage, but it doesn't mean it passes all the time. And this is an example of it not passing. Granted, it was a while ago, but it's still, the logic is still there.
How many copies for you guys?
One other, this is more of a personal note. Last year, the commission came before you and asked for $10,000 to treat the ponds. I think you all remember that.
Yes.
And I live on the pond. We appreciate that you did that. It's been 5 years since they treated the pond. Even though the money's appropriated every year to treat it, it went 5 years without being treated.
No, I don't think that's an accurate statement.
We haven't seen it treated. I talked with the
I
guys.
believe that, but I'm not sure. I don't believe it.
I don't believe we had the money for a couple of years.
I don't think.
Oh,
they
you did,
have.
it wasn't, you didn't appropriate it?
I don't.
I don't believe we had it, yes.
Okay, all right. I want you to know, I know quite a few people around the pond, and I heard that there was a petition with 100 signatures. I read it in the paper and I heard it from somebody else. I don't know if you ever saw that petition with the 100 signatures or not.
For,
Okay, we're getting off subject here. We're talking
this is a
about the...
totally different
We're
subject.
just talking about the regulations. I don't care about the weeds, whatever. I'm just talking about the regulations. That's it.
All
No
right.
more, no less.
Okay, then, that was an issue from last year. But I wanted to touch on it briefly because it's the same players. But I will defer to the gentleman at the end of the table there.
Okay?
The boss.
Well,
Can I,
I'm glad I didn't pick on him with building then. Whew.
Wouldn't have bothered me.
and not disappoint everybody, have you verbalized this to the Conservation Commission, these concerns
Oh, I've talked with the agent on several occasions.
about the commission?
Not the entire commission, I have not. I think they know my feelings. I think long before, we've had several hearings on these particular matters. A lot of the matters that I'm reading in here have come up at meetings, and they've concerned me. So we've already talked about a lot of these. A lot of what I'm reading in there is in response to things that have been done, you know, particularly on my property, but also in other areas of the town. So I'm pretty sure they're well aware. I certainly, I would have welcomed the time to talk to her tonight if she wanted to, or I knew there was one hearing. I was out of town. I didn't know about the other hearing that they had. I'm assuming that there'll be more hearings by them. Certainly, there's got to be one before the RTM, or I'm assuming there'll be one. They did last time. They tried a meeting before the RTM. I'd like to go to that, and I am going to go to bylaw study and talk to them about it too. It's a real concern that a set of rules is made that's not articulating what you can and can't do. It gives them broad authority without giving the resident any rights other than we hope they grant it, not here's the criteria and if we meet it.
Have you, I assume with the work that you've got in here that you have this to some extent documented on your own computer or what?
Oh, yes.
Would it be reasonable to ask him to forward that over to Michelle?
If you want it. You know,
No,
this is,
Michelle
you know,
Dorenzo?
we're getting way out of hand. And I'm gonna shut it off now. Okay?
Okay.
It's the end of it.
I would say just for the record that he does
Oh,
forward the
if he wants
information
to
and
follow,
research that
you-
you've
you're
done. That way
welcome
we have it when we start deliberating.
Yeah.
So we have it for reference.
You're welcome to send anything to Michelle you
You have
want.
Michelle's email?
To the
I know how to
FinCon.
get in touch with her, so
All
yeah,
right,
I can get it to her. That
All
shouldn't
right,
be.
that'd be
Yeah,
great.
Michelle,
I think I do have her email.
Okay.
Michelle forwards everything to every member of the
Every
committee.
one of us,
Oh,
yep.
I have no
Yep.
doubt.
Yes. All right, that'd be super. Thank you so much.
She was the secretary back when I was on the finance committee. She's been here a long time.
She's good.
She was the best back then. I can't believe that
still
she's any
is.
less than the best now.
Thank you.
Good luck with your pool.
Well, let
Thank you.
him know when you're gonna have it built.
Oh, yes, I will.
So what do
Oh,
we
wait,
have?
we have another,
All right.
Chris, before you step up, hold on.
Oh,
You're making me nervous with all these binders.
geez, he does have quite a stash. Hello, Mr.
They're all
Donahue.
blank
John
pieces.
Donahue, Precinct 7. Just one of the, and I'm sure the committee is well aware of this, but it's more or less for the audience that's watching, or people who are in the audience, that the bylaw change that the Conservation Commission would recommend has to go before the bylaw committee first, and then the bylaw committee makes the recommendation to you gentlemen and ladies, and then your recommendation comes before the RTM, and then the RTM is the one that decides whether or not the bylaw passes or not. So I just thought I'd kind of an FYI, and I'm sure you're well aware of it, you know, and you know, I'm speaking to the choir, but I just wanted to, some people out in television land and in the audience may not understand that. So I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue.
Thank you, John.
Anybody else?
Think of it as exercise.
Well, we can just cross them out and did not appear.
Chris, your time's up.
We're all done. So we're on schedule.
Yeah, 7:35, you're 5 minutes late.
Well, you know, I've got a lot to go through, and I hope I can do it in enough time. You know, if you have questions, you know, I'll take them as we go, but if you can hold them, that'd be great, too. Let me just start, first of all, Chris Sweet, Town Treasurer and Tax Collector. Sort of a preamble. This is, these are the laws relating to municipal finance and taxation. published by the Department of Revenue and Division of Local Services. So everything that happens in the Treasurer Department and in the Tax Collector Department is governed by Mass General laws. In addition, you know, we have federal laws as well that we have to comply with. So it's not just, you know, my say-so or somebody else's say-so. We have to go by this book. It's all very small print, too. In addition, the Mass Collectors and Treasurers Association publishes a manual for collectors and for treasurers. This is the Treasurer Manual. I have not published or printed out the Collector's Manual. I have not been going to the classes for that yet. I have been going to the classes. These are the past 3 years' worth of course material for the Treasurer course, and to get certification for Treasurer, which is what I've been working towards. My Assistant Treasurer is already certified, which is a good thing. So that as a preamble, let me get into the presentation and try to go through it as quickly as possible. I do have budget information at the end. So if you turn to the Treasurer's staff, besides myself, I have 3 people, Elaine, Claire, and Gail, are all union people. I heard you wanted to know who was union and who was not. Stacy is a part-time person. She's not in the union. Go to the collector's staff. We have 3 people that are in the union, Pat, Barbara, and Jen. And then whipping right along here, next page, hours. These are the town hall hours. Monday through Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Friday, 8 to noon. That works out to, well, for them, they work 34-hour weeks. Moving over to the Treasurer office. Treasurer is the custodian of all town revenue and money funds. We process the weekly vendor payable warrant and mail all checks to pay the vendors. That's approximately 300 checks per week, or 15,600 checks per year. We actually print the checks, stuff the envelopes with the checks, apply postage, and mail them. We make daily bank deposits for all the department turnovers, or what we call turnovers or receipts. These are actually deposits. You know, when conservation, they collect the money at the beach, it's got to be turned into the treasurer's office. We are the town bank. So when the person from DPW or well, not necessarily electric because they do it separately, they come in, they give us the money. We have to actually count it while they're waiting at the counter, and then certify that, you know, what they gave us is correct. You don't want to go to the bank and make a deposit and just leave it and walk away. You want to make sure that, you know, they're counted the right amount. So we have to do that on a daily basis. Just as a side point, the auditing firm and also the town accountant who oversees all the controls, fiscal controls in town, we have, may even be a bylaw or a law that we have to have all departments who handle cash or checks, money, turn that in to us at least on a weekly basis. You cannot hold money, or should not be holding money longer than a week. Okay, we count and verify department turnovers while the department employee is waiting at the counter. Data entry of the turnover receipts details for those departments who have opted out of Munis, which is the town finance system. You know, ambulance account, fire permits, we have to enter those. Everything from North Attleboro Electric, we enter those. They've opted out. And the schools, all the transactions for the schools, because they've chosen not to use the Munis financial system, they have their own system. Whenever they make deposits with us, we have to enter that into our Munis system.
Could I interrupt you?
Yes, Barry.
Why?
You'd have to ask the schools. And maybe
it seems like it would be much more cost effective for everybody to be on that same system.
I don't understand why it's an option to
Right.
opt out. I don't get, that
Mr.
was
Fisher?
my question. Why would that be an option?
First of all, I want to make sure we understand that the ambulance is only 1 check a month. Okay, it's not a big job. We get 1 check from our collection.
permits,
agency.
fire permits aren't that big either.
They get 1 check. It's not like, you know, hundreds of checks. When Munis was put in 2007, the school department opted not to get into it from the beginning because they felt that Munis, the way it's structured, did not adequately give them the administrative controls that they needed on the school side. Okay, there were certain things, it's not just debits and credits, there's a lot of other things, reports and so forth, that go along with it. I was interim town administrator at the time. I'd say we had 10 meetings debating and going over this. Mr. Smith was the superintendent of the schools at the time, and they opted not to participate. It was not an easy decision. There was a lot of discussion and debate on it, and he felt that it was in the best interest of the school department not to go into that system. In relation to fire permits, we just are part of a regional grant that we received from the state for permitting software. And so the permits are done on a different program. Again, I don't believe there's a lot of activity there, Chris. You can
About 200
a year, 200 a year. Okay. And then NAED, Chapter 164, they can do whatever they want. Okay, and they do.
Well, and they also have a different fiscal year end, which would make it cumbersome
Yes,
in Munis. I can understand that.
I just explained to you.
Yeah. Well, you didn't actually explain the schools. You said Mr. Smith decided not to.
Yeah, they felt that it was not in the best interest of the schools, that they could get a much more effective management software that deals with schools. And I will tell you that is not uncommon.
Yes, but it's costing us quite a bit of money right
A lot
now.
of towns that the financial software that's good for the town may not be good for Chris. For Chris, you have the same problem with water and sewer, don't you?
No.
No,
They have a
no,
bridge
they're
now.
not listed.
They have a bridge, but they have a different software
Yeah,
package.
that's working okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
working.
that's the
It's
reason.
just the reality that we have.
I'm explaining to you
Right.
why the decision was made
Right.
by the schools.
Yeah.
And-
They have the authority to do that.
And also, just obviously in the day and age we live in now, to make you said a bridge, I'll call
I
it
was
an
just gonna say,
API or an
a bridge,
ODBC
yeah.
connection, that there
Let's
should
call it
be.
a bridge.
We'll call it a bridge for you
Let's
guys.
call it a bridge.
Yes, you can certainly do from software to software, create that bridge.
Yes.
That you could, I'm assuming with the software,
do that for you?
import
They're
it.
in here, you can ask them.
Yes, I
Okay.
plan on it,
Yes,
thank you.
okay, bridge.
All right, so not to belabor that, but it's a good
Yes,
question,
sorry.
very good question. We would appreciate any help in that regard. We perform monthly reconciliations, which is basically balancing the various checkbooks, if you want to call them checkbooks, but balancing the accounts, all the bank accounts and investment accounts. We have 49 now, up from 47 last year. This also includes My School Bucks, which is what they use at the school now to implement their fees and so forth for transportation and athletics. Yes?
I was gonna say, was that the fund that you created yourself?
No, that's a program that we work together with the schools to make it a little easier for them, for parents to make payments online, rather than them piling
No word's
checks
fine.
up.
No word's fine.
Beg your pardon?
The word no is fine.
Okay. Retirement account, trust funds, we have 98 trust funds that we have to reconcile every month. So clearly, there's some work there. We make time-sensitive payments for Medicare, NAED sales use tax, NAED New England energy payments, school lunchroom meal taxes, et cetera, or we incur in fines or late fees. And some of these we get literally a day before they're due. So, it's something that we have to stay on top of, and we can't pay fines and late fees. We just have no money allocated for that, and there's no way we can pass that along through the town. So it becomes a very difficult situation if we wind up with fines. We manage all the debt obligations for the town. Issue general obligation bonds, actually got a bond issue coming up for $6 million in May 15th. And bond anticipation notes, that's short-term borrowing, that's less than a year. We make approximately 66 debt payments per year, and those also are time-sensitive. Payroll. And again, this is all in the treasurer's office. We haven't even talked about the tax side yet. We process approximately 1,200 paychecks and direct deposits, and the direct deposits are approximately 80% of that number, weekly, which is a $900,000 to $1 million week payroll. We process or get printed over 1,600 W-2s every year.
Do you guys do that in-house?
We have a a firm that we job that out to, but we still have to do the internal maintenance and feed them the data and so forth. So it's a
how labor intensive is that in terms of, is it just all, okay, they made this much, here's a sheet of paper, or you transfer it electronically, or?
It all
how they're
depends.
getting that
It
information?
generally wouldn't be that labor intensive, except we had this problem with the Affordable Care Act last year, where we had the 12DD box that we had to get software programmed and work with HR and work with Harper's, who was our payroll service. It was a lot of time and energy and money to get that set up, and we're still in a trial phase with that.
So may I ask, if the schools are not in Munis, you're manually inputting payroll?
We do that every week for everybody, yes.
Payroll isn't in Munis.
Oh, it isn't? Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, all right.
No,
Okay.
sorry. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Chris, the reason it's weekly, is that a contractual thing, or?
Again, you know, we can go into the whole biweekly discussion. It's apparently some union, some way back when, did not like that and wanted a weekly amount. It's been built, I believe, into the collective bargaining agreements, but I can't speak to that. It's the selectman's area. I did get a quote about 6 weeks ago from Harper's about what we would save on an annual basis, and $22,777, let's round it up, $23,000 a year. In the scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. It's something, but it's not a lot.
How often do you guys do a check or on, competitors? So you use Harper's?
Yes, we go out every 3 years.
Every 3
and
years.
bid. It's a bidding process. We actually do an RFP or RFB
Sure.
or whatever, and it's a legal process that we have to go through.
Right.
And Harper's has been hands down. We've looked at paychecks. We've looked,
Sure.
people have the ability to send in whatever they want for the bid, and we pick the best one.
Right.
And obviously the lowest cost.
Yeah, sure.
In addition to, just issuing checks, we have to deal with what we call agency payments for those folks that have child support taken out of their paychecks, any wage garnishment issues, which you'd be surprised, it is rather frequent. 403B, 457, which is retirement accounts for teachers and town employees. Teachers' retirement, which is the mass teachers' retirement, that's a separate system as well. So we have to pull money out for these agencies as well on a weekly basis. And those deductions can change, and we get to payroll adjustment forms from HR to authorize to do that. So there's a whole symbiotic relationship with HR. We don't do anything in a vacuum when it comes to payroll. It has to come through HR.
And you have to look at it every single week. So once you
Absolutely.
set it in terms of, so if someone has a child support payment, that's, the court says, okay, you're paying $50 a week from now until the end of time, till they turn 18, so you still have to manage that on a weekly basis?
Once you set it up,
Right.
it
It's
should
autopilot.
run, but then some go for 26 weeks, some go for,
Right.
So you have to turn things on, turn
Sure.
things off, I'm not saying it's a heck of a lot of work, but
Right.
it's there and it has to be done.
Okay.
So, okay, moving on, manage all aspects of police and fire special detail payments. As you know, when you drive by a construction site, there's usually a police officer out there. It's a pass-through. The company that's doing the construction, or unless it's our own DPW, has to pay for the officer to be there, or if in case if it's a firefighter in some cases. We are contractually, not contractually, we are by state law have to make our payments to those officers within 10 days. Whether or not we get the money from the company that's paying us. So we turn into a collection agency trying to chase down, it helps to have the police go after them too, but sometimes, I've got a couple of, the folks that were doing the detail when they tore down the Oddfellows Hall. I'm still trying to chase down $3,600 that we haven't collected. We made the payments, we had to make the payments. So, and finally on this page, manage tax title accounts and payments, including tax foreclosed property, and that's on a separate page. So, try to move along quickly here. In the tax collector's office, we manage all aspects of real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle excise tax collection. We collect payments for over 47,000 real estate and personal property tax bills, and approximately 1,800 demand bills annually. If you haven't paid we have to send out another bill. It's called a demand bill. And this also includes betterment bills and supplemental tax bills. If you bought a property in the middle of the year and you did some construction in that area, you might get a supplemental bill. The assessors tell us what to bill. We also collect payments for approximately 32,000 motor vehicle excise tax bills and 6,300 demand bills annually. So in other words, folks get their excise tax and forget about it. We have to send out a demand bill for those. And we manage the tax title process in accordance with Mass General laws, and again, I can get into that later. Collection of payments is done by multiple methods. Either somebody comes in person at the counter, they send it in by U.S. mail, they can do it online, internet. Tax service bureaus, if you have your taxes escrowed through your bank, they send it to a service bureau, they send it to us. There's a lockbox process as well. We have a Century Bank is our lockbox. Payments are made to Century Bank and then they're sent to us, but we also get the actual detail for each payment. And ACH was automated clearinghouse. We also issue refunds. Don't like to do it, but we have to. That's per the Board of Assessors, and whether the refund is because somebody had an abatement, either on a vehicle or a property or a mall, excuse me.
Is that a slip?
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Or personal opinion?
We also prepare municipal lien certificates and dissolvements of betterments and liens. What is that? A municipal lien certificate, if you refinance your house, if you're selling your house, you need an MLC, or at least your attorney, closing attorney, for the HUD statement. You want to make sure that the taxes have been paid, or if they haven't been paid, that what's owed. Is there a water bill, sewer bill, electric bill, anything that can be liened if it's not paid. So we do that. They're $25 each. We generate last year we generated almost $23,000. This is the only fee that I could perhaps increase. I'd have to go to town meeting. I'd have to get it. The fee could go up to $50 per. So I could generate another $23,000, let's say. We do not get the benefit of that. It goes to the town's general fund. Also, you're now disincentivizing people to get a refinance, or you're making it more difficult for them. So that would be an interesting argument on town meeting floor, whether we could get the doubling of this fee through. But that's the only fee I can increase. So.
Okay.
Provide daily customer service at the counter and by telephone, and by mail, I should have said. We answer questions regarding tax bills and payments. We research payment history. The income tax filers, those folks that are, 2 weeks ago, the last minute, what did I pay in 2014? Could I get a printout? So we have to do that. Seniors and veterans, they have to provide proof of residency. So we have to show that they've been paying taxes since 1978. And we did get one recently that way. We research confused and incomplete payments, and we also research, why did I get charged interest? We have one today that the lady paid somebody else's motor vehicle excise tax bill. She was 2 digits off on the bill number. So now we've made the payment. She did by credit card. This one thing is going to take probably 3 or 4 hours to undo and fix. Because it involves the credit card. It's online payment.
So that's my next question. What percentage is being lost in the revenue?
Nothing's being lost. It's still owed to us, whether we collect it now or later. We will collect it.
Right, but the bank charges you a fee when somebody uses the credit card.
No, the bank doesn't charge us a fee. The bank charges the person making the credit card fee. I guess you haven't looked at. We're not allowed to add a fee. There's no vehicle for us to do that. So if you want to pay your, I'll interrupt. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
if you want to pay your real estate bill, you go online and say, oh, I can pay this way, this way. Oh, if I want to use a credit card, if it's a Visa, and there's a scale, or a schedule that says, if it's $1,000, it's going to be $40. If it's $2,000, it's going to be $80. It's right there on the website, so you can see that if you want to make a credit card payment, via the internet, you will get a fee tacked on to your own credit card. We can't pass that through.
I never knew that. Because usually when you buy something at the store, you pay the price and they're the ones paying the fees.
But we are not, statutorily, we cannot do that.
No, I'm not saying there's a fee that you charge. So what I'm saying is, like, in my business, right, you buy $100 worth of goods, you pay it by credit card, I'm losing the percentage as the merchant.
Yeah, we're not, we can't be a merchant that way. That's
They're in
not-
better shape.
So so the payment gateway service that the town uses doesn't charge you a fee?
It
They do it
charges-
for free?
No, it
No, it
charges-
charges us.
Charges you the fee.
So that's what
The user.
charges the user the fee.
Yeah.
I've never used the system by credit card, so that's why I'm saying.
Good luck.
All right, so when you go in and you pay your bill with credit card, that fee gets passed on to the,
Payor.
okay.
Okay.
You should go see.
I just wanted to make sure the town wasn't losing percentage
Oh, no,
points.
God, no, no.
You should go in and see Chris and see how he does it, so you don't have to pay.
Okay, moving along. We have some very confused people, I know, I'm sorry. We verified delinquent taxes paid. People come in for a building permit, and this was a great one. There's a big developer that came in, and he's been very much in arrears with taxes, and thank goodness the DPW has his name on a list that I provided. And they said, you gotta go see the tax collector and make your payment of over $10,000 in back taxes before you can start work. And again, that's the type of thing that I have to stay on top of. The delinquent taxpayers get on the list. If it's been over a year that they have not paid, then I can stop them, or we can have other town departments, if they're getting a food license or construction license or building permit, those departments are informed that these people are delinquent. And of course, we have to reconcile our tax receivables, similar to what we do with the checking account. We have to make sure that all the payments that came in were applied to the proper accounts. And that's done on a monthly basis.
Wow.
Sounds like a small thing, but it is rather involved. Munis helps. Munis helps. Okay, tax title updates. First of all, I want to thank you for the $10,000 reserve fund transfer that you granted us a couple weeks ago. Year to year, I don't know what departments like water and sewer, because they went to the new billing system, had a lot of people that they didn't put on lien. So when it came time to go on lien this year, a year ago, we had a lot of people in tax title that hadn't paid. So that's why I had this extraordinary amount of people. If you saw the list of people that were advertised in the newspaper, it was huge. And every time I do that, it's $76 or actually $80 that I have to incur. It goes, ultimately when they pay it, it goes to the town's general fund, but it comes out of my budget. So in order to replenish that money or pay for the legal fees, we appreciate you guys stepping up and giving us that $10,000 this year. Hopefully I won't have to do it next year.
Hopefully.
Okay. Yes.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right, completed the fiscal 14 real estate tax taking. Because one individual was in bankruptcy, we had to move it up. Normally I do it in the spring. I moved it up to the fall to capture this person came out of bankruptcy, so we were able to swoop in and grab them for the past 3 fiscal years. So we grabbed 2011, 12, and 13 tax years to capture properties formerly in bankruptcy. In 2014 fiscal, we collected almost $288,000. In 15 through February, we've collected $246,000, rounding up. And I'm very much looking forward to the sale and subsequent taxes and fee payments for the Riley Lumber Balfour property, 21 East Street over here. That's over $165,000 that we can collect, and that'll go to free cash in the fall, if they pay it before June 30th. 2014, we also redeemed 90 tax titles. That means people came off tax title and paid up, and they're now good, solid citizens paying their taxes, which is a good thing. Through February 5th, 2015, we've redeemed 40 tax titles. That leaves 130 properties remaining in the tax title status. And again, one of which is just over here, 21 East Street. We generated in 2014 and prior generated FY 2014 and prior delinquent taxpayers listing, which I just spoke about, and distributed to all town departments who grant permits and licenses. So we can hopefully get money paid to us before they get their building permits or licenses. Accomplishments, we reduced and continue to reduce authorized unissued debt, which Mr. Legassi knows quite well. Maintained our S&P bond rating at AA stable. They're coming in actually a week from today, next week, and they're going to have a town tour and have a big, long discussion about where we are financially, and hopefully we'll keep our rating. We'll see what happens. In July 2014, we started collecting money on the education fund, which now stands at over $23,000.
Nice.
As an aside, it was voted at the one education fund committee meeting that we had that the school is free to use this money for meaningful and visible purposes. And so far, they've allocated about $4,600 to STEM in the middle school, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics.
How about textbooks? I keep reading about textbooks.
It's there to be used, meaningful and visible.
Who gets to decide that? The school
School.
department, the school?
Superintendent.
Okay.
Maintaining up-to-date MTRS, Mass Teachers Retirement Reporting. As I said, we deduct every month from payroll for the teachers and other folks that are this would apply to, administrators and so forth at the schools, and deduct a certain amount and put it into the Mass Teachers Retirement System. And they are very, very detail-oriented. So this is something that I've had to take on personally and clean up a few years back, and thank goodness it's running well, because it can be a nightmare to sort it out. Hired a new principal office assistant in the tax office. We were part of the North Attleboro Shuffle, I'll call it. Somebody moved in one department and it cascaded through all the departments. So we wound up being short a person, and we hired a new person who's worked out very well, I might say.
Good.
Participate, as always, in the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, providing all the debt calculations. Established a debt management policy, which is now up on the website, and S&P, our rating service, feels that's very important to have. It's something that we follow now. It's been adopted by the selectmen. Support and assistance, Roosevelt School and Windows and other MSB, Mass School Building Authority funded projects. We helped out with the 0% Mass Clean Water Trust loans. That's 2 of them for the wastewater treatment facility upgrade. That's $28 million of borrowing with 0% interest. That's unheard of, and you must really thank DPW and the staff over there for that. Unbelievable.
I'd rather pay the interest and not the principal. Not trying to be critical.
No,
Give me a heads up on
conversation
that,
for
will
them.
you?
2.5% rate for the general. We got a 2.5% rate, which is in the prior year we got a 1.8% rate, but we got it. Actually, it's kind of miraculous, because if you see the rest of the thing here, we got a 2.5% rate for the general obligation bond of last May 1st. Continuing disclosure and post-issuance compliance. Oh my gosh, you want to talk about a reporting nightmare. That's something that the federal government requires, and it's a lot of minutia, a lot of work that has to be done to maintain those 2 documents. Annual financial audits. We had no treasurer or tax collector issues. Yay. And again, these are all the other sort of, not off the books, but certainly just doesn't come to mind when you think about these 2 departments of tax collection and treasurer. We help out the veterans. We got to deal with the IRS, the Department of Revenue, U.S. Census Bureau. I do a quarterly reporting for the Census Bureau. Bureau of Labor Statistics is a reporting. Mass School Building Authority, the Clean Water Trust, North Attleboro Electric. We've got to do some reporting for them for their audit. Mass Teachers Retirement. The NAIDC Trust, which is the industrial park, has an actual trust that works with conservation for land in there. Plainville intermunicipal agreement. We have to make payments and do billing for Plainville's portion of our water and sewer. Work with the tax service bureaus every month so that they know who's delinquent and who's not. So again, there's a lot of things going on. Next page, future. I'm hoping to take this treasurer certification test in August, and then now continue my education, get the collector certification, began some of those last year, continue those as well, and continue to support the town and school departments, taxpayers, and the people of North Attleboro.
I noticed you didn't say anything about passing the test.
About?
I noticed you didn't put any pressure on yourself about passing the test. You just said
I
taking
have
it.
always pressure on myself to pass that thing, believe me. Okay, budget. I'll zoom right along. If you have this spreadsheet, I have a ruler, but you might want to put something along a piece of paper, edge a piece of paper. Sheet A, if you look down the pink column, these are all my, again, I've given you all the detail. The first two major blocks are total salaries, and the next two major blocks are all the expenses, and down at the very bottom are kind of two separate off the line. There's, line 145C and 145D, lines actually rows 55 and 56. I'm not going to speak about those. Those are not being touched. So back up to the department request. This is what my level funding was last year on line 13. If you look over to the right, in salaries, I'm actually asking for less than what I got the prior year. This is because we had the North Attleboro Shuffle and somebody moved, and so we're actually saving a little bit of money because we have a lower priced person in there. Okay, go all the way down to line or row 51.
Can I just call time out for a
Yes.
second? So elected departments, so line 2.
That's me.
Okay.
That's half of me.
Okay, so that's half of you, so you're asking for a salary increase
Yes,
on both line 2 and line 8.
right. One half and then the other half.
Okay.
That's how it's reported in Munis.
Full-time salaries, treasurer, full-time salaries, collector, so down below it's saying the same, but there's an increase in salary on line 3.
Right. Line 3 is the assistant treasurer.
Okay. But I see a reduction now that you say because of the whole, the transfer in people.
Right.
Okay. Why are you giving raises when we're in financial trouble?
I have no choice. This is a contractual agreement, a union agreement. I have no choice not to give these raises. So this
In your
is
salary?
Oh,
You're an
no.
elected official,
Okay,
right?
I said this was my request.
I understand
I
that,
have-
but why,
I have
my
pages-
question is, why are you giving yourself a raise when we're in this financial issue right
You
now?
haven't given me a chance to go to B, C, and D.
Okay, go ahead. Then
Then you're gonna tackle.
I'll pull back my questioning then.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So if you look down column P in the expenses, I'm shaving $4,000 off our payroll services. You see that on row 17?
Yep.
Okay. I've had an increase in the bond premium. If you can imagine, we just don't have anybody handle money. They need to be bonded. So myself and the assistant treasurer and the office manager and tax collection need to be bonded. So that is also, you see a little $55 increase on line 49. So if the total expenses, where I'm actually down from the prior year on row 51, down $3,845. For a grand subtotal, if you will, on row 53, again, from last year to what the request was this year, originally, before all this stuff came to pass, I'm actually down $6,400 because I don't need it. Okay. Questions on this page? Because this is just setting the table. I haven't gotten into the cuts yet.
Okay.
Okay. If
So
everybody,
this is the level. This first thing is just,
it's informational. That's the level funded
Gotcha.
budget. Okay. Next page, B. Look at column P. 820 is removed. okay, both on rows 2 and rows 8, taking my raise away.
So 40,981, requested 41,801, and then.
Barry?
Yep,
So just let me
gotcha.
finish this. No.
Yep, okay.
So this has got nothing to do with the 4.09 yet, okay? This is just, I just wanted to show you, if I took away the things I could take away today, what I would save. So let's say I take away my increase. That's $1,640. See that in yellow on row 12.
Yep.
If you see, I take out training seminars and all the professional development, stuff I have to travel to, actually not myself, but just anybody that's certified assistant treasurer, we have to travel for courses out in UMass Amherst and so forth. So if I removed all the professional development related expenses, everything in yellow in column M, and look down at the grand total of that, which is on row 54, that's a grand total of $3,715. Okay, that's if I voluntarily just got rid of all that. It's not fluff, it's important stuff, and of course I would like an increase, but that being said, that's what I could remove without principally hurting the department. Okay, questions? Moving on to C.
What does that come out of?
Wait a
the
minute.
possess-
That's not a percent, that's just showing what I could cut without suffering too much pain.
But you didn't show what the percentage was, right?
No.
Okay.
I don't,
That's what was asked.
can I just, so, right, on A, what you can cut is 6,400, or 60, yeah. Why is B less than A?
No, I think he's, if I'm
That's
hearing you
in
correctly,
addition
it's
to it.
6,400 plus the 37.
Oh, it
Right,
is, oh,
right.
okay, I see,
That's
all right,
additional.
thank you.
Yeah.
In addition, all right, excellent, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on
You're
to
on
C.
the tonight.
This is the 4.09% cut. Obviously, in column N is where I've made some cuts. So, take out row 2, $820. I have to take out my part-time person on row 5 and put any of the extra money that's left over, and you'll see why I have extra money. And $6,139 is net of what I would save if I lost the part-time person. Again, row 8, 820, and then all the way down. And if you look at the bottom line there on row 53, that's 20,228. That's my 4.09% cut. So, in effect, I would lose my part-time person if I had to cut 4.09%.
But you'd run overtime to make up for 2/3 of that savings, right?
You can't technically, yeah, it'd be difficult
I mean,
to
that's
do
what it's
overtime.
showing here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, my part-time person is not going to work for 6 hours a week. I mean, that's, so.
Not logical.
Yeah.
All right, and on that topic, in terms of staffing, my department, at least Treasurer Department, is actually down one full-time person from a few years ago. So we've been making do, so to speak, with a part-time person. We've been able to slowly increase her hours over the past few years, but she has not had any increase. Part-time people have had no increases in I don't know how many years. So while the union people do get some increases year over year, even step increases, the part-time people have not gotten increases in, how many years, Mr. Fisher, would you say part-time people have not gotten raises?
They've had 1% increase since 2007.
Wow.
So, okay, just moving along quickly. Sorry, I'm taking so much time.
When was the head count, when was that person let go? Like when we,
Beg your
said you're
pardon?
down one person from where you were, when was that?
I believe that's in the 2008 timeframe. It's
Okay.
obviously before my time.
Chris, 2010.
2010, sorry. So
So 5
it
years.
wasn't that far long ago. Thank you, Mark. Okay, D. This is the 17.35% cut. Again, you go through there. I would lose on row 4, one person in the Treasury Department. I'd lose my part-time person in the Treasury Department on line 5. Row 10, I would lose a person in the tax office. And again, the other cuts remain the same. So really, I'm down now 3 people. with this cut out of 7. Questions on that one? The very last page will kind of sum it up for you guys. So now E, this is the 38.26% cut, or 189,396. This is where it's a real bloodbath. I have lost all my people in the treasurer's office except for the assistant treasurer. And in tax collection, I'd lose all my people except for the office manager in tax. I myself, in green, would have to take a $9,700 pay cut. And then all the rest remains the same. I'm not advocating that I do that. I'm not advocating that I take it, we take these cuts at all. The very last page shows the human beings that would be affected by this. My staff, our staff, they work for you. If you look at the 4.09% in purple with 20,228, Stacy would have to go. If you look at the 17.35%, 85,899, we'd lose Stacy, Jen, and Claire. If I had to have the 38.26% cut, or $189,000, we'd lose everybody except for Pat and Elaine, and I would have to take a haircut.
But literally, you couldn't function
No,
after 38.
not statutorily.
Could not
We
function.
would be putting
Legally.
the town at risk. This is an $80 million a year, I won't say business because it's sort of unique, because there's a lot of things that have to be done regardless.
Right.
We are an AP and an AR department. We're 2 departments. You could never see an $80 million a year business run on, 1 person in each of those departments, or 1.5 persons in each of those departments. It's fiscally irresponsible and unsecure. We didn't mention the fact that we're going to have, I call it, trickle over. You've got departments that are going to get cut. Who's going to do their work on payroll? Who's going to do their work on receipts, turnovers? We are. So if there's no staffing there for them to do the work that they have to do, guess where it goes? It goes to where we are. You also invite the chance of embezzlement. You invite the chance of fraud. And this is not a joke. This is serious stuff. The town accountant will certainly speak to this when he comes in on Monday. So I guess what I'm looking for is a 0% cut, because we are a high-risk department, or 2 departments. If you don't bring in the revenue, you can't collect it, nobody's here. Who goes on vacation? We have to shut down the office for a week. And you have to give people their vacation, that's contractual. Who's collecting the money? Who's answering the phones? Who's doing the correspondence? Who's answering the emails? It's that serious. And I don't know how to impart it any further than that. It's not because I want to put, 2% raise in my pocket. I want to preserve the people that we have. And you cannot make the rest of this town function without money coming in and accounting for the money and paying the bills that we have to pay. So that's my request, 0%. Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd ask the Finance Committee, as you look at these requests that the departments have given you, to consider that, for example, in the third option, I know you're debating where you're going to be. The functions that most of these departments have got to maintain are still there. But in the option D, the third option they spent out, we're asking them, right now they have 198 hours of labor productivity available to them a week, 198 hours. After the cuts, assuming that Treasurer Collector is still willing to work 40 hours a week with over a $9,000 pay cut, if he still does, he's only going to have 114. We're going from 198 hours to 148 hours of productivity to do the same work. And so take a look at what's happening to their available production hours in each department, especially those departments that still have the same services to provide. I think it's quite a measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other questions, folks?
Chris, some of the routine stuff for APA, have you looked at possibilities of outsourcing pensions?
Yeah.
No, we haven't looked at that, no.
You know, some of the more,
But
you
you
know,
have a choice,
stuff that
right?
is routine, you know, it takes time. No.
I don't know. That's a good question. I have not
Yeah,
looked
I
at
know
that.
sometimes companies, private companies do that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think from a bonding standpoint and a risk standpoint, that may not be workable, but I'm open to anything at this point. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else, folks?
I don't think so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sweet.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Did a good job.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
All right. What's next?
Who do we have now?
Park and
You
Rec.
have 5 minutes.
I will,
Thank you.
That's just my only monologue.
It's time to get the dance.
I certainly know that you folks are tired, and I will do my best to
I've got my coffee, I'm ready to go.
keep to the point. Good evening, all. Just think of it as overtime. That's what we're here for.
Good evening, folks. Steve Cavallo, North Attleboro Park and Rec Department. Thank you for having us. Certainly recognize that you have a daunting task. Hopefully I can maybe enlighten you on some of the things that we do if you don't know. I know you know a lot of the things that we do, but maybe some of the things in there are something I can, oh, I'm sorry. That I can, certainly. I only need one, so you can take the rest.
No, no.
Please.
Could I have 2 more?
Oh,
We need a couple more.
2 more.
I was gonna say, I thought you had more members, but
I need 2 more.
Paul? We need a couple more.
More, Paul.
Thank you.
I believe it's not the first time I've had a lot of women walk out on me.
But it's understandable, Steve.
Thank goodness my wife hasn't done it yet. But, as my board has usually asked me to do, I usually speak, and I know several of my members are here this evening. If you have any direct questions of myself or them, I have 4 members here. So, just to go through it very quickly, I know that you time. You've been here very long. Just several. The first page and flipping over through the information I provided. The Park and Rec Department does more than just cut grass. We take care of memorials, playgrounds. We actually take care of this property here. We help with the police department in maintaining this grass. We obviously take care of next door, different sites. DPW, we do several of their sites as well. What I mean by sites is different things, little locations where the town owns. There are corners around like intersections and whatnot, little areas that we try to maintain to make sure that they're safe and clean and visible for traffic to passing by. As an example, people might not know there's a set of stairs on the end of Barrow Street, excuse me. We do our best to try to maintain that area for the children that come from one school to another. Just to kind of give you a little bit more than what do they do? We do quite a bit, I believe. But we have over 200 acres of property. We have many trails. That's something that we've gotten into a lot over the last several years. If you've been hopefully been able to visit the park, specifically World War I Park, we've created a lot of wonderful things up there, trails to the Balancing Rock, if you're familiar with that. It's a wonderful thing in town. And like I said, we have a lot of fields, a lot of programs that we do, but just trying to, it's not as simple as just cutting grass, what our folks do. I'm kind of a little bit of everywhere. This is obviously a very, I can't imagine how daunting a task it is for you. I assure you, for the people that I represent, which we'll go through, it is a very scary, uneasy, and uncomfortable is certainly putting an understatement on it. There's been so much progress made in North Attleboro, certainly before my time, and certainly, hopefully, I've been able to carry the torch with commissioners to be able to make the town wonderful and continue with it. But So if I go a little bit of everywhere, I apologize. Usually I'm on my A game, but quite frankly, this is uncharted territory. This is really nerve-wracking, and I know it is for you as well. That first page, page 3, is our full-time people, and I'll go through it on I'll go through it on page 5 because it's a little clearer. But just to go page 3, you can see there's myself, there's our full-time office manager, there's our laborers. We have 4 people in the department. There's all the part-time people over the years, you can see is unfunded. You do see things under there like zoo attendant. Those are the people that work weekends and holidays for the zoo that help feed our animals during the course of the day. If I'm going too quickly, feel free to, it wouldn't be the first time. The next page, you can see it says part-time seasonal. At one time, the Park and Rec Department was fully funded for our summer camp program. I believe I've stood in front of this board many years ago where we were fully funded and there were 1,000 kids playing in our summer camp program. 3 locations, 1,000 kids in one program when that program was like $50. Because of all the cuts over the last 13 years and certainly over the last 5, that fee from $50 is going up to $475. And because of that, our attendance has dropped in the 300, and it varies 300 to 400 for our programs.
That's for the whole summer.
That's for the whole summer. That's for the whole summer. It's about $475 for an 8-week program, and that is fully funded. That is fully funded. The pool. At one time, the pool was fully funded, as you folks are aware, over the last 5 years. If I could just give a very quick history, approximately 8 years ago, the Park Commission, in conjunction with the Pool Committee, I believe is their term, they reached out to the Park Board and said that they needed more help in being able to run the pool. The Park Commission took over the pool, took over the responsibility of maintaining that memorial, because certainly that's what it is. And since that time, I believe the highest that the budget was approximately $110,000. I believe currently, 2 years ago, the park budget and the pool budget were merged. Budget 640 and 650 were brought into one. So sometimes if you're not looking at it really, really clear, and I certainly know that you see the numbers all the time, you're aware of it, but some people might think, oh, Park and Rec didn't get cut as much. All they did is merge 2 numbers to one to make it look like the one number is better, because the second number is a 0 now, if that makes sense. So right now we have about $35,000 to run the pool. Over the last 5 years, we have probably raised over $100,000. A lot of it, in full disclosure, has been by one donor who no longer lives in the community. It was unfortunate. There should be a statue in honor of this individual because he contributed a lot. And the reason I don't say his name is he's instructed me 1 billion times never to use his name. Similar to the sprinkler system, I look at Mr. Bellum. There was a private donor who put the sprinkler system out there a couple of years ago. One of those, it's kind of like Voldemort. You never say their name, but in a good way. So the pool has been hanging on by life support by a lot of people. Certainly Betty Poirier, our state rep, has not only been the biggest advocate for us, certainly members of this board who have done so much for us over the years, but we're struggling. The pool's struggling. We average over 1,000 kids a week that enter the pool. Those numbers are rock solid. We do a count every single day. We know every family. We know every child that goes in the pool. Getting back to our state rep, she's over the last 2 years, she was not lucky enough, worked her fanny off, if I can say it that way, without to be vulgar, to get us a grant. That grant will be running out at the end of this summer. The grant was for $75,000. The majority of the grant was for safety equipment, things that we had lacked, things that you would think are common, like an AED. We didn't have any. Now we have 2. Backboards, which you would think you'd need some. We didn't have any. Now we have 2. Things that are that without a doubt are needed, but we're going to have to do our best to not have them there and keep running the show, keep running the pool. So the pool has obviously fallen on very difficult times, but again, just to summarize that, it's been by a lot of wonderful people that it survived. And we are at the crossroads, no question, and you'll see some of the scenarios that are in front of us that are going to change. If I could, flipping to the next page, as I mentioned, the Park and Rec office, we're open Monday through Friday. Monday is a standard day, 8 to 4, Friday is 8 to noon. I assure you that in the 2+ years, I can't imagine any scenario where either the office manager or myself has been home at noon or near noon. That's just not the reality of what a lot of the people, and I'm not the only department. I'm confident if you pull into town hall at 12:30, you're going to see a lot of people's cars still there, a lot of things that still need to get done. And that comes from the cut that happened a couple of years ago where there was a negotiation where we went from a 40-hour week to a 37-hour week. The full-time staff is a little bit more unique. We have 4 full-time staff members. Our foreman, John, he works Tuesday through Friday. Our zookeeper, Allie, she works Monday through Thursday. Our groundskeeper works Monday through Thursday. His name is Paul. And we have a laborer who works Monday through Thursday as well. His name is Will. The reason that I'm being that specific is we decided to be able to be other departments, I guess, I guess I'll try to be, I don't mean to be specific. If DPW is paving a road and they decide that, you know what, we're going to end today and it's a Thursday and we'll pick it up on Monday, that's something I believe they can do. Obviously, they leave the road at a certain point and they can come back Monday and get another truck, and Park and Rec can't do that. We can't cut half a field. We can't feed half an animal. And to be clear, those 4 people are feeding the animals and cleaning the park and going to the playground every day, picking up trash every day, picking up all these people's dog bags. That's obviously one of the bigger issues that we're having lately. That's why it comes to mind. There's not a lot of halves. It's something that we do. We love to do what we do. Our staff, I'm floored every day when I see their dedication and how much they've given, how much they continue to do, how dedicated they are. But we can't just stop. It's not, certainly we could stop. Well, Steve, you could cut this field. There are a lot of factors with that. If it rains on Monday, well, the whole schedule gets moved. So now instead of cutting grass on Monday, we're cutting the memorials on Monday because the grass can be longer and wet. And there's a lot of factors to it, what I'm getting at. But the fields have to be dry or somewhat dry to cut. So that's why we really had to split the schedule to having one person on Friday. And that one person on Friday feeds the animals by himself, and then he goes out and does the day-to-day work that needs to be done, particularly before a weekend, getting all the barrels, making sure that the nets are where they need to be, making sure that the different things that are done, the doors, the lights, or whatever it may be, the locks, or whatever it may be, the million things that go on. That's why we needed someone Monday through Friday, and we split the schedule. Those are all the union employee members. The seasonal employee ones I mentioned a little bit to you. Over the years, we've had many cuts to seasonal laborers, not only on the pool side, but the zoo side. Those cuts have been, I believe my first year here, almost 14 years ago, I walked in the door and there was a $60,000 cut to seasonal laborers. I believe a couple of years prior to that, they had lost a full-time person. Several years into my tenure, we lost our mechanic, but we've had many cuts, and this is where we stand now. Their actual breakdown, their money factor is on the preceding page, on the pages beforehand, but the seasonal staff is just part-time people who are working at the pool and helping, like I mentioned, on weekends to feed the animals and working on holidays. The reason for that is obviously it's overtime. It's cheaper for us to pay an 18-year-old to go in to feed the animal, and obviously there are certain things that they have to do to be able to be trained to do that. It's not something that you can just walk in. So that's kind of all of where the budget side comes from when it comes to hiring our seasonal and full-time people. Anybody have any questions? The cuts. I tried to make this. Hopefully, it's in a clear way. The 4.9 cut. Very simply stated, 18.5. What we would lose is the majority of the people would be lost at the pool. We would also be losing some people on the weekends, and I don't know how we're even going to do that, but I can tell you that if there's one thing that hopefully you can all say about Park and Rec is we don't quit. We have people that will find a way. I don't know what that way is at the moment. I wish I could tell you emphatically. I have a game plan, but I know that between the many volunteers that we've had and rotating schedules, you know, there's ideas of doing things. That's the direction we're thinking about is cutting back, having one volunteer with one, because we can't have people there alone is the issue. It's too dangerous. Even cutting grass, cutting alone is dangerous, or whatever it may be, lifting a barrel. So that 4.9 cut, which is certainly, I'm hoping, I'm a realist. I always try, I don't think in all the years I've been here, I don't think I've ever come in front of this board and had a wish list. If I've ever stood in front of you, I've always felt that it was needed. I don't think, I can tell you that I'm hoping that the 4.9 is if you go a direction, that's a direction you go, because it's catastrophic after that. So again, that would be all seasonal, and what would the modified pool schedule would be, and I can certainly go over the specifics of the pool schedule, but with that cut, we would basically eliminate about 2/3 of our lessons, being able to offer them. We would only offer lessons on Mondays and Wednesdays. I believe the pool would be closed on Sundays. We would only open from 1 to 6. We would, what else would there be? We would cut back, obviously, desk attendance. We would not be hiring certain people to run certain things. As an example, the maintenance director would also be responsible for the swim lessons. And that's problematic, but it's certainly something that we're going to have to grit our teeth and get through it. So the majority of the cuts would become from that. And this is the year, and the park board has not voted on it, but I'm confident the commission has typically left given me the authority to do what I need to do to make sure it gets done right. This would be the first year that there would probably be a charge. We're looking at about $30 a family. It would be, so if you signed up for a swim lesson would be increased to $60 from $50, and then you would also have to pay on top of that a $30 family fee. So to enter the pool. I think I've said to this board many times, a lot of people love the idea of, not love, I apologize, it's certainly not you folks in general, but you hear people say, oh, you know, they should charge at the pool. I respect that. I truly do. And the board, I'm confident my recommendation is, based on what your decision is and town meeting's decision is, we need to do something. I totally understand that. The difficulty is that when these times get tough, and they're getting tough, a lot of people say the non-essential divisions are the ones that, well, you know, we don't really need them. I could not disagree any more than in that. We have people flocking to what we offer because they can't go anywhere else. They can't afford to do anything else. Take a ride through the park today. You know, one of the commissioners mentioned to me on the way in, he said, I bet you there was over 100 cars. I actually think, I would think we were closer to 200. Go by Mason Field. There was an Earth Day group there today, a bunch of families that have been extremely loyal to Park and Rec over the years. They were there cleaning. So it's, you have a very difficult situation in your hands, but make no mistake about it, that Park and Rec is where people are going. And certainly a lot of the other departments, the things that these folks do, it's not as simple as, oh, we're gonna shut this down, or we're gonna cut a little bit more here and cut a little bit more there. I can't stress to you the importance of all the departments and all the colleagues. I've been here 13 years. I want to say I'm one of the more senior department heads, and they're all cutting. They're all doing everything they can to try to get this through. Sorry, little side note there. So there would be a charge this year at the pool.
I'm sorry.
The 17% cut, which works out to be about $78,000, would be the pool would completely close. There's no way we could sustain it. There's no way we could sustain the pool. We do have some funds from Make a Splash, and we do have some grant money left. I just don't know how we could, I don't know how we could open it. I don't know how we could open it to keep it safe. That would mean no lessons. That would mean the kids that go there every day. I think, you know, I get phone calls from people at Town Hall all the time. Hey, Steve, there's 30 kids in front of Town Hall on the gazebo. And my answer to them is, well, they doing anything wrong? No, I just want to let you know. And they're all waiting to get in the pool. And they're all kids on their bikes and their skateboards. And they I don't want to say they look kind of like me when I was a kid, but you know, maybe maybe a little bit longer hair when I had hair. Maybe I wore the t-shirt from the night before because I was too lazy to put a new one on. Just a bunch of kids that have nowhere else to go but that pool. So I can't imagine where those kids are going to go. I do think that once the pool closes, a lot of the mandates that are, and I say mandates, the ability to reopen it becomes, I believe, problematic. A lot of the state statutes and things, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, I'm a park and rec director. I don't know what it's going to take to reopen it, but I know dealing with several things, particularly with our USDA license, that, you know, right now we're able to do a lot of things that we're able to do because it was opened when it was open, it was built when it was built. So that becomes problematic. We would lose a full-time member of our staff. That person, Paul, he's a groundskeeper. The investment we're making in him, pesticide licenses, being able to do a lot of the things that we need to do, working with DPW, spraying a lot of the areas that we need for poison ivy. There's a camaraderie amongst all the departments. We're always helping each other, using each other's resources. That would be lost. Never mind the ability for, now you're looking at 3 people trying to maintain all those properties. And I could go on, but basically, there would only be 3 people, but we're adamant about trying to save the zoo because and I'll say it again, that World War I park, that memorial is, in my humble opinion, is second to none. You know, when I first got here, people used to call like, "Oh, are you Capron Park?" And no disrespect to Capron Park. Now people are calling them saying, "Hey, are you World War I Park?" Because that's how wonderful World War I Park is. And there's a lot of people to thank for it. Obviously, the Cicalas, Julia's Garden, the zoo. But a lot of the thanks is because of the people, the men, the women, the volunteers that have made it wonderful. And it is wonderful. Take a ride through there. If you haven't had the ability to take a ride through there, do so. It's stunning, and it's ours. And in my humble opinion, for the short amount of money that we put into it, we're getting a really, really good bang for our buck. The next cut, which is obviously, it's unthinkable, is even beyond. It would mean losing 2 full-time staff people. It would mean closing, obviously closing the pool. The zoo would close. That would be problematic because we have, you know, I want to say about 85 animals up there, our friends, our family. Those things are, you know, our 30-year-old goat, or excuse me, our 30-year-old horse and pony that have been with us, that I believe Mr. Coyle donated to us about that many years ago. Sorry, Tip, I didn't mean to age you, sir. You know, someone's not just going to knock on the door and say, "Hey, let me take all your old friends." All these animals are our family, and it's mind-boggling to think that these things may go away, and and then obviously losing the USDA license, it never comes back. Park and Rec, unfortunately, many years ago, if you recall, we had a wonderful, wonderful location. It was before my time. It was called Sunrise Hill. And I believe because of budget cuts, that got shut down. And there's not a day that goes by that someone doesn't, well, maybe not a day, but very, very often, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, someone's asking me, "Hey, Steve, when are you going to open that ski slope?" And believe me, that's something that we want to do because it's a great recreational resource that we could have right here. We don't have the money to do it. We don't. We all know that. But it's something that we're striving for. There's a reason that we're cutting all the brush along the side There's a reason that we're not ripping down those poles. There's a reason that I'm still a member, free membership, by the way, of the National Ski Association, which makes no sense because I hate to ski. But it's the networking, because sooner or later, every once in a while, someone's got a free J-bar, and we always ask about, oh, you got a free J-bar? Which is a system. So my point is that if this cut comes, this 38%, which, again, would be beyond devastating, our services would be, the park would close on a regular basis. There's no way we could maintain it. And again, and I keep harping on this, there is no such thing, in my humble opinion, as a non-essential department. There's not. Everything that all of us do, all the department heads that I meet with and work with, partnership with, they all are doing a tremendous job. And I'm grateful that they're all in my life. And I can tell you that we all do more. I just spoke to him just the other day about a situation that was completely over my head, and if he wasn't there, certainly I wouldn't have been. I can't imagine if you weren't there. I'd have to call the town solicitor. So I mean, we're all fighting, we're all struggling, and recognizing that you all have an extremely daunting and awful thing in front of you, but we're not non-essential, none of us. Even, I think the exact opposite. When these folks have nowhere to go, they're going to us. They're coming to see us. They need Park and Rec. They can't afford to play Little League anymore, but they can afford, Little League's a bad example, but they can't afford to play all of these different sports, but they'll come to Park and Rec because it's only $50, $60 for an 8-week program or a 10-week program. And it's something that we're able to help and we're able to provide in all these services. So we're not non-essential. When you don't have money for a vacation, they're up the park having a picnic. That's what they're doing. They're going to the animals. Sorry, I'm monologuing again. Just to go quickly, and again, I will wrap up, and I don't know if the board members want to speak. Our programs, I look at this number, there are 6,494. I assure you that's not even scratching the surface. That was something, I had 3 days to put this together, and this is just the quick find stuff. You know, thankfully we have a great system, Eunice, that can punch up, but there are so many programs, like we ran 12 senior trips last year. That's not on here. There were 50 people, maybe 30 people on each bus that went somewhere in Big Red that Park and Rec provides. And that's a collaboration with the seniors. They don't have any money, but I understand that. So we were able to get grants, and Pam and I work together. So that's not even on here. How many people use that bus, how many different things that we offer that aren't on here. But that's just a real quick snapshot of what Park and Rec does from programs-wise. Then I just wanted to give you an idea of what the youth groups do in town, because there may be a misconception that the youth groups, and the youth groups do not a lot, they do a ton. The water for our fields are paid by the youth groups. The majority of the sand materials, you know, there was some conversation about the new fields that are being built on High Street. Park and Rec is going to maintain those properties. Our staff is going to go, and they're going to get it done with the only 4 people. And they have great pride in that for property. But the materials that's going to take to get that field looking green is not being paid by Park and Rec or the town. It's being paid by youth groups that are helping us maintain our property. And it's a two-way street. They get nice fields that they can use, and we get the ability to be able to provide our youth and our residents property, but it's a two-way street. They're not taxing our resources. We're providing them resources and partnered with every youth group that we have in town. But that's just the number of kids that they have in their program. And then, I mean, I kind of went over just the bullet points. I won't go over too many of them. I know that you're behind schedule, and I promised I'd keep it short, and of course I didn't.
We didn't believe you.
I assure you that I am available 24 hours a day to speak to you about any topic that you may have, any concern that you have. I would like to say, if any of the board members, I don't know if you have a question of myself, or if the board members want to interject anything. I don't want to put them on the spot.
I just have a quick question. So you mentioned the whole ski thing. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, and you may not have an answer, but maybe it's something you can research. But, you know, I'm also of the philosophy, too, that sometimes you got to spend money to make money. If that was to be opened, say, by some gift of, you know, Miracle, Ernie Bach or something like that, you know, what kind of revenue could we generate for the town?
You know, I wish I could give you a specific answer, but it's a very, very intriguing question. And I can tell you
There's
that
nothing around here like that.
I'm completely in agreement on that we actually looked into even buying, because there's water on the bottom, we were actually looking to buying a machine to be able to make snow.
Right.
So the problem is, like anything else, it's the upfront money that you need. And there are no grants. You know, everyone says there's grants out there. All the grants that we run into, and we look, there's not a day that goes by that we're not looking at. So everything is either a matching grant or an upfront grant. We don't. So I'm trying to do it the way Park and Rec has always survived: beg, borrow, you know, and grab anything we can from people that have a resource. But that is a great question. I would think that if the upfront cost could be absorbed, not only would it be a great resource for our community, but I do think it could. I think it could sustain itself at a minimum, if that's a fair.
I think you're selling it short. I know Mark is raising his hand.
I give you a little history. I was on the park commission back for about 10 years in the 1980s. It used to cost us $10,000 a year to start up the ski slope, between the inspections that had to be done, people had to be certified, trained to run the J-bar, the lift, and the maintenance, everything that had to be done. It cost us around 10 grand. Steve mentioned the water down the bottom of the hill. What the weather killed us for many years. We got a heavy snow before that water froze at the bottom of the hill. There was no skiing. I remember we'd have a foot of snow and you'd ski into a lake down the bottom because the water hadn't froze. So we had years where we had a lot of snow. We couldn't ski because of the water down at the bottom. Yet we had some great years. The blizzard of '78. I mean, we skied for a month every day. It was phenomenal. It was great. But when budget cuts came, we said we can't afford to spend $10,000 on a program that we may never use this year. Okay, and then we went like 2 years where we didn't have enough snow. So that was the reason. It was a combination of weather conditions and the startup cost. That's why the decision was made to discontinue operating.
In a good year, Mark, excuse me, what would it generate?
I can't really recall. You know, the fees were low. You know, we didn't charge much, so I really couldn't tell. Really don't know.
Well, that's why I'm just saying, thinking outside the box, because, you know, the closest you're gonna get is Blue Hills. Or Yagwu, I think, down in, you know, Rhode Island, where you're gonna get some side of activity, and I just think,
yeah, it's something that I assure you that we don't stop. I just talked to a gentleman the other day named Mark Gabry, who was kind enough to move a trailer for us, and I only bring that up to thank them publicly if we're on TV, but he has a friend that sells ski equipment and this type of equipment, and trying to see if there's a way of us doing it. But if I could, I'd like to kind of almost use your question to my advantage, I guess.
Sure.
That ski slope, which was a great recreational resource, came, budget cuts happened, it's never come back. Once we stop losing our resources, they're not going to come back. I think of Ruth Rhine. She was a pioneer in this area. She was born and bred in this area, and that Ruth Rhine property, and she created that Girl Scout camp, and there's just a plaque for her down there in a field, which is wonderful, but there used to be cabins, a pool, recreational resource, but budget cuts and different things, and for whatever reason, it never came back. That is my biggest fear. A lot of people, certainly we're all worried about our jobs. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I'm not worried about my job, because we all are worried about our jobs. But what we do, I think, is very special, and we're all unique in our own way. But every day we're blessed that I say this every single day. Every day we help people. Every day, no matter if it's cutting grass or painting a line or picking up trash or filling the grain machine, whatever it is, we help people. So it's important that we continue, and I recognize your difficulty, but we continue and not lose what I think is something that people need more and more today. We need an outlet. We need some place to go to protect our children, and we have it. I certainly wish you the best and don't envy your situation, and If there's something, if there's any more information, I know I want to kind of wrap it up from my end. I'll talk as long as you like, but I'll use the term. I'm begging you to really think about how difficult, particularly with Park and Rec, and I know with all of them, but it's we're not non-essential. We're not. We are vital, even more so in this time.
So I also, want to be an equal opportunity, hammer, obviously, from what was, requested in salary increase as well. I want to be fair to Chris, that I give everybody the same attention.
Ask anything.
So it's the same thing. I am always of the mindset when times are tough, you don't take another extra penny in there, right? But I obviously see how you're cutting, on this side of things, and I should have waited a little bit longer for yours, but I still say the same thing.
I will say this. I can't speak on every employee, myself included, is in a union. I'm in the steel union.
Right.
I'll say this, that, and I would never speak for my fellow steel union members. Those are negotiated contracts.
Right.
But I will say this, that, and I'll have no problem saying it. It's too important to lose what we have over whatever it is. I don't even know what the raise is. I don't even know what it is. I mean, well, I don't think any of us, certainly yourself included, sitting where you sit, do it for the money. But money is the headache that we have. So, but I assure you that if there's a better way of doing it,
right.
And if that means, I do know that at one time the steel workers were asked not to take raises. Our contract's up right now.
Right.
Literally, as we speak, our contract's up right now. I assure you, as a member of that, I'm fully aware of what you're saying.
Right, because that's my personal belief, is that I'd rather save people than give people more money. I'd rather save what you have than increase and lose.
As the Park and Rec director, I can assure you, I completely agree with that philosophy. Thank you all so much.
Steve, can I ask you one?
Oh, certainly, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I just don't want to disappoint everybody. The numbers you had 3 scenarios here of the 4, the 17, and the 38. Are they standalone numbers, or are they cumulative numbers? In other words, do you add the 18,000 to the 78?
No, I didn't. They basically fall under each other. So like A would mean what B happens, A is part of B. So to answer that, yes.
So that 78,000 includes the 18,000?
Yes.
Okay, so
then some.
We don't add them to, Chris had set us up, so we
Yes.
kind of add them.
Yeah, and I actually, when Chris was going through his, I actually thought I should have maybe written it that way, but I didn't know how to present it, if you know what I mean.
Makes sense.
I think it's fine. We just
No, I
gotta
appreciate the
understand,
question, though.
just so we understand.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Animal control leave.
Animal control.
Animal control's not here.
Is anybody?
She just got back from vacation last
Okay.
night. So,
Oh, shoot.
right now she's
If there's anybody, does anybody from Park and Rec want to make a comment? Not Steve.
Steve, you had mentioned
Not
that
Steve.
somebody, possibly anybody else wanted to speak.
Oh,
when you were up
no,
here.
the chair just obviously, this is what I do every day, and she's been, I apologize, she's been grilling me for 3 days about this all weekend, so. She's well versed on what I just said.
Okay.
Just really quick,
Could you come down to the, could you
Come down to the mic.
I just want to say one thing real quick.
Martin, did you come down to the microphone? That way it gets on record.
Yeah, the problem is, they can't pick,
Once they do, they'll be turning it on.
the problem is they can't pick it up for the
Okay.
recording.
Martin Grealish on the Park Commission, and I just got a quick visual as I was looking at these cuts here, and page 30, the page that has the 38% cut on it. Look there, it says the World War II park, the pool, it would be closed, and the World War I park is closed. I didn't grow up in this country, I grew up in Europe, and I grew up in a free Europe because of the sacrifices that people in both those conflicts did. So to close those two, see those two things closed here, it would be something that I think would be difficult to take, so it's just a visual I saw as I was looking at it, so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Max, you wanna, you're all set? Okay, being that nobody is,
All right.
You want a motion to adjourn, sir?
if that's what you wanna do, or do you wanna discuss anything, or?
I don't know that you can discuss, we don't have enough information to do a lot of discussion, I don't think.
Right.
I mean, if you want to stay here, I'd be glad to stay here with you.
No.
Because I'm sitting next to Kathy, and I like you.
I haven't had dinner.
Okay,
On the front, you're on the one.
Not yet.
no, wait a
Let's
minute.
adjourn.
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And I'll
Second.
second. Okay,
Second.
Kathy's got the second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
How are you?